I'm going to call the Finance Committee meeting to get order at 6:40 p.m. Roll call: Adams. Here. Agee. Here. Pujansky. Here.
Gallery. Here.
So the purpose of tonight's Finance Committee meeting is to go over 2016 tax budget, and I would now like to turn over the meeting to Finance Director Irene Crowd to just give a general idea of what is the purpose of this of this tax budget for 2016. What is the purpose? What does it do? And some of the numbers.
Okay, thank you for your patience as usual. And it's the truth, the computer went down, so we had a problem getting our files back up. What we have is an abbreviated summary. The main question that we had at the last budget was why there was a change in the ending balance. The tax budget, as you know, has several components. It has the debt service component and for the levies, so that those are pretty much set. And if you have your page, let me get mine also put it together. So if we just quickly want to run through the different sections of the budget. And like I say, some of it is self-driven by the levies and by the taxes. So on after the cover sheet, you have the levies.
We're in the original.
I'm sorry?
Are we in the original?
Yes, I haven't made any changes to it. Actually, I've been away, so and I have been checking my email. I didn't see anything that was questioning other than the original question at the meeting itself. Okay, so you know the purpose of the tax budget is basically to set the rates for next year, and then also to set the estimated resources. So the first page, or well, actually the third page, you have the levies that are currently in place, and it's the general fund, the street lighting, police, fire, and pension.
I'm sorry, are we looking at, what are you?
I'm looking at the tax budget.
The tax,
One that's
okay.
in our page 2 packet for the meeting.
I didn't bring any copies. I assume you have copies of the tax budget.
Here.
Okay.
Attached to your agenda, the meeting.
It was passed out first meeting a couple of meetings ago. Back.
You got this? Okay. I'm looking at this, okay.
Okay, so the division of taxes levied, like I say, these are the taxes, the levies that's currently in force, and they're already sort of like self-governed by the county. And they're the levies that we have: the general fund, street lighting, police, fire, and bond levy. And like I say, the dollar amount in column IX, the last column, is basically the amounts that were received this year, maybe with a little uptick in them. But to be conservative, I use pretty much the same amount that we currently have budgeted in the 2015 budget. The entire budget itself was based on the 2015 budget, with whatever changes that we had from the current activity. If you remember, we started working on this budget like last November and December, and then of course, we finished it up in April. But lots of things happened and changed. That's why they say it's budgeting. It's not a final document. No one expects it to be a final document. So when we do this, what we projected at the time is based on what we know. And lots of things have changed, just in a month or two since we prepared the budget. So in doing the 2016, I projected basically information that I thought would be more realistic. Not to say that the budget we have currently is not realistic, but it's for 2015. And some of the activities in 2015 would not be in existence in 2016. If I may just give you an example, and of course this is well known to everybody, I did not budget in 2016, for example, the senior formula rec. I mean, that's a given. But we did have 8 months of it in the 2015. So you're going to see variations like that. One of the other things that you may see, there was money that was budgeted for cell towers. I think like $307,000. We won't have that in 2016, so it's not in this budget. So that's how the budget, basically the methodology in preparing the budget was looking at what was budgeted this year and projecting whether or not we thought it would be next year. I think the other thing that's really important to understand, and this is not a course in government accounting, but it's important to understand the structure of fund accounting. And I think that would help a lot of us. For example, the 100 series basically are the operations, the general fund, and where we spend most of our efforts and most of our activity. When we get into the special funds, like the 200 series, those should be self-contained. It's usually government, maybe contracts, grants, or what have you, or reimbursement programs. The money comes in and it goes out. And it's sort of self-governing. And it can change. The same thing with the engineering contracts. All during the year, there may be OPWC grants that's written for various engineering projects. So I think, that if we really just focus on the 100, that's basically where our effort, and if you recall, that's where our fund deficit is in the general fund. I made a concerted effort in 2015 to remove all the deficits that were in the fiscal watch declaration. If you remember, there was about 5 or 6 funds of a substantial value. And of course, the general fund, whether it's posted there or not, is accountable for taking care of those funds if we overspend or over appropriate or what have you. So for 2015, 2014, we made a gallant effort to to clear out all those deficits. And that's another reason 2014 was really high in terms of the general fund. So as we stand now, Jana, which I should have introduced, works with us as an assessment accountant. We spend time when we balance each month to ensure that we don't have deficits or that we know what they are. Sometimes they're tiny, okay? I mean, for example, government programs and contracts such as the elderly program, the area agency, they're reimbursement. So we spend the money and we get it back. But when we spend the money, of course, it may show a deficit, and we spend it through expenditures for salaries and whatever else. But until we get the money back the following month, it could be 6 weeks before we get the money, you may see a temporary deficit. But it's just a matter of knowing what's real and what's a timely deficit. And actually, we're doing real well now. But getting back to this budget, what I gave you, I went down to compare from the 2015 budget, the beginning unencumbered balances, to the unencumbered balances on the tax budget. So you can see where the variations. The second page, or the second set you have, is the same with the ending balance. So I took the ending balance. I know there was a big question about why there was such a fluctuation between the certificate of estimated resources that had been certified by the county and the ending balance that's on here. there was some notion that those two should be the same, and that's not true. This document is representing what we think the beginning balance will be for 2016. And the other one, what we had represented at the time we did the 2015 budget, and it's all incorporated on the activity. So we need to understand that. We can go real quickly through the spreadsheets that we prepared. And the first one says beginning balances. Okay, you have one that says beginning, and then the second staple set should say ending. So in the beginning, the very first column came right from the estimated certificate of resources. These are the balances that were on the beginning, which would have been January the 1st of 2015. And the second column is the beginning from the tax budget, and you see the differences, okay? And so if you look at the second page in the bottom line, it shows that we're estimating that there's going to be $120,000 approximately increase in that bottom line. We have projected a deficit of $143,000, and with the 2016 budget and taking into consideration of everything that's going on, is $264. So there's a change of $120,000. Again, it's key to look that in the general fund we're okay. Is the other special funds, there's money comes and goes, and different government dollars for sewer, the muni, highway, waste collection, all of those. And if you want to focus on the column and highlight the big ones, if you look halfway the page at 219, you'll see sewer maintenance. And one of the 299,000. The big change there had to do with, again, some audit adjustments. All during the year, and even as now, there's constant adjustments going on based on audit adjustment. This had to do with part of the fiscal emergency declaration where they said that our bond fund was overexpended when actually the bond fund had incurred some expenses from the sewer maintenance fund. So as we make the transfer, that takes the balance down. It doesn't take it into a deficit, it just brings it down from the 749 to the 450. And the same with the solid waste. If you remember, there was appropriation legislation passed that approved transfer of solid waste funds back to the general fund. So this is encumbered, taken into account here. We transferred $200,000 this year. As the money becomes available, we will take the rest. I think we have projected about $600,000 or so that the solid waste fund owed the general fund. And that's one reason that the general fund, if you notice, has a positive number because monies are coming from some of these other funds going to the general fund. So as you go down, basically, this is what we're doing. And then on the last page, the second page, the other big hit was in the trust and agency. This is the escrow account. And even as late as maybe a month ago, this account is still being audited by the auditors. They went back to the beginning of this account to look at every receipt disbursement. And of course, you will see that adjustment reflected because it was just, it's a memo and it's a book entry. It's not affecting the cash at all. It's just really a book entry where there had been no recorded activity appropriately over the last 4 or 5 years in that account. So this sort of explains the changes in the beginning balance from the certificate of resource from 2015 to 2016 tax budget. Okay. The next sheet you have does the same analysis for the ending balance. And again, the first column takes the ending balance from our 2015 certificate, which each of you should have. I sent it out to you. The middle column, again, takes it from the tax budget. And this is where I think the question arose. If you look at the last page, where on the 2015 ending balance, there was $1.4 million projected, whereas 2016 tax is $91,000, and there was a question about the $1.3 million swing. So if we go down each column, each row, as we did before, you can see what caused that swing. And again, you can see the general fund is really an improvement because of some of the transfers, not transfers, but money being allocated back to the general fund. Also, you have to keep in mind that part of the deficit in the general fund was because, like I say, the pay or funds that were not accounted in the general fund for like police and fire. In 2013 and 2014, when I came, those funds were over appropriated. So we started appropriating dollars to those funds so that the deficit would not increase and the program, the police and fire expenditures were paid out of the general fund. This year, being 2015 and 2016, now that we have it under control, we can now take the employees and expenses from the general fund and charge them back to those funds. So because of all of that, you have the big swings. The biggest swing that were probably, again, like I say, the solid waste collection. Like it had like a $708,000, but that was before the legislation, before any movement from the solid waste back to the general fund. And the last page, which is the big hit, is the 736, and that's the escrow account that I talked about. That's $702,000. Like I say, there were, over the years, the disbursements went out, but they weren't recorded on the books. So now we've recorded those to bring them up to date. It doesn't affect the cash, it's just a matter of putting it on the books. So it reduces the fund balance. And that's the 702. That's the biggest mix of that 1.3. And like I said, you can look at the others, basically for the same reasons that I explained for the beginning. It just rolls over to the ending because it's just a function. The ending is a function of the beginning. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
And Ms. Carroll, when is the deadline this has to be approved, submitted to the county?
July 15th.
And I solicited out to the council for questions, and I got questions from Mr. Jackson. I see the phone numbers, but did you want? Some of these numbers don't correlate. Did you want to ask your question?
Well, some of those, or all of those, some of those are reflected back to the budget that we passed.
That part of the budget.
And I don't think they reflect too much on the 16 budget, but to the 15 budget that we approved. And some of the numbers, again, I just don't know how they're going to hold up through the rest of this year, or if any of those could be adjusted for this year.
Yes, as I said, the budget can be amended as often as you wish. County does not set any stipulations. In fact, they expect at least one amendment, which is in December. Usually it's customary to do at least the December because we have all the activities. I mean, there's a lot of things that has happened, such as vehicle repairs and different things that we had not planned on. And there's no way you can know. But I think that I can say with all certainty that our budget is under control. And we're running pretty far, to course. You receive your monthly statements, and if you ever want to go through that and have some course on how to read that and use it as a management tool, we can do that. But the 2015, I didn't bring the 2015 budget or the financial statements. You receive those. In fact, you should be receiving May, this week, we're closing out for May. And so if you have a question in terms of how to read those as it relates to the budgeting, we can go through that if you want to have a session on it. But yes, as we see that things are changing, which they will change, that's a certainty. Yes, we can amend, this body can amend the budget anytime you wish.
To the chair.
Yes, Mr.
Program.
Jackson.
The questions I have then, I would like to hold those until we have a budget meeting for 15, because they're not really associated with this for 16.
Now, the purpose of having this finance committee was, this next council meeting, the council, we will be voting on this piece of legislation, so I want to make sure that if there's any other questions or anything that council has, to ask them now, or if you have any other questions, to direct those via email to Irene. So I want to ask, does any of the council members have a question regarding the 2016 tax budget? Alex?
Do we have any funds written into the senior center?
2016,
2015, I'm sorry.
yes, we have budgeted through August. I mean, that's what's in the budget.
Are we looking to go anywhere forward from August? Is there anywhere that we can transfer any funds to keep it open to receive? What happens with the levy?
That's the decision of this body, but right now, all of the budgets as we had submitted are pretty tight because we have had a lot of unplanned, mostly around vehicles, and we're looking with the fire and police chiefs to see about replacing, the repairs. It's just like every week, it's like $6,000, $7,000 of repairs. So we need to start looking at replacing, using the money from repairs and put it maybe in a lease on new cars and fire trucks and rescue squads and stuff like that, which we'll probably be bringing to you, just not at this time, 4/15. But as it stands, we're running pretty tight because we really budgeted pretty tight. And when I say that, I'm speaking of the general fund, because we really, in terms of the government contracts, which is like air agency, we used to have DARE, we have juvenile diversion, but those are self-guided, We spend the money and they reimburse us based on what we spend. There's not like a surplus from those programs. So it all has to be worked through the general fund.
What I was worried about is if the senior center has no funding until August, and Linda Picker, correct me if I'm wrong, will you be subject to losing our federal grants and stuff? So there's no way we would ever have money to restart the senior center.
I think there's plans in this constant daily conversation between Ms. Vopak and myself and the mayor. We're reassessing just to see where they are. And I'm going to do a pro forma for the senior program just to see where we are with that. Whether they're spending less than budgeted, which may add more for another month, a week, or whatever. So that's something that we will be doing very soon. And I know she's been working on some initiatives that she may want to speak to. But as terms of the budget itself, we will be reevaluating where we are based on what we have budgeted to see if there's any surplus within that program that could carry us a little longer.
Because I would, Mr. Chair, Tony sent out an email and he was talking about an additional levy for the human services, rec department, and so forth. And I thought the council and us should discuss that, because we're going to have to submit that pretty soon. The council will have to submit it and give us your thinking on that particular thing.
Well, hopefully we'll be getting together sometime this week. I was gone the last week, a few days, so today is my first day back. And trying to play catch up. Of course, we come in and the computers are messed up and we really couldn't access a lot of files. But we are constantly as on the forefront, and we will be looking at it to see how we're faring against the budget. And I'll know better when we do the financial statements when Janet closes out tomorrow. I can just see where we are at the end of May, which would be a good barometer, to see. That's about a half a year, 5 months. So we can see how we have spent and where we are with that. In terms of the 2016 budget, we can only budget what's already approved in terms of levies. So I could not put that in here until after it's actually approved or voted upon. So it's not here because it's not officially a levy at this point. And of course, our hope is that it will pass, so it'll be in the 2016 annual, budget for the city, but it cannot show up in the 2016 tax budget.
I was kind of worried about, we have to keep it operating to keep it going. And always if there's no funding, and we shut down. I don't know how we get it up and running. And that's a dilemma in the project.
Yeah, we're going to do some brainstorming, and I know with the brief conversation I had with her today, there are some initiatives that she has, and I don't want to speak for her, she speaks for herself. But I mean, we've had conversation today about some of the possibilities of what we could do, but we need to put it on paper and add it up.
Because that is a worry. Each council here will be after
Linda, is there anything that you wanted to say?
The only thing that I can say is that everything is tentative, and I wish it weren't. But I spoke to the new director of Senior and Adult Services, Dr. Richard Jones. He is going to the county executive on our behalf this week. He asked me for numbers. He's new to the job. He asked me for new numbers. He was going to see if Mr. Budish would recommend the release of $47,000. Again, right now, at the end of April, I believe as I recall, there was another $12,000, roughly $255 taken in donations that is in the fundraiser account. And at the first weekend in October, I will know about the $30,000 from the First Catholic Ladies Slovak Association. So that in addition to, there are 3 fundraisers planned before the end of August. Everything's tentative. There's everything tentative. I mean, I can look at this and I can tell you that you've got $21,000 in the rainy day fund and it's pouring over here. But that's, that's up to you. If we can get, depending on how the fundraisers, we're doing grants for next year already because those, if we don't plan for them and we stay open, we can't get, if we don't apply, we can't get them back. And you'll never get them back, as you will. And I understand the fact that we don't have the money, and I understand that there are other needs in the city. But you also have, in the little bit of staff that's left here, you have the very basic part of recreation as well. I mean, when the pool was open, when the soccer, when all of that was going on, it was the staff here that did all the registrations, did all the running around for everything that had to be done. That was here. So, as I look at the budget too, I don't see a lot of space there, a lot of dollars that can be. Do I think that it's a real shame that we can't make it to the end of the year with what we're asking, with what we need? I do. I mean, $150,000 in a budget when we're already in a deficit of $2.5 million seems like a drop in the bucket to me to keep the services open that we provide to the city. And with the risk of never getting them back, or you'll get them back, but you'll pay and you won't get the grants from the Senior and Adult Services, and you won't get them from the area agency. And I don't know what else to say. I can't, you know, you can't get blood from a turnip. And I look at I look at it too, and Irene, we were supposed to meet, and then Irene was off for a while, so we need to see where we stand. I don't know what additional monies were deposited, because I send them over all the time. I send the deposits over, so I don't know what's in there for May, what was deposited to increase that 12,000. We're getting another 1,000 this month, matching funds. Someone donated $1,000 to us, and their company has a $1,000 matching fund. That's another 1,000 that's going to come in. But is it enough? And you know, I don't know. I mean, I know that right now, no, there isn't enough.
Well, go ahead, Tony.
Unless, are you going to answer to
What I was going to say is that this body should consider, with regards to that rainy day fund, and that's something that this body wants to consider, is transferring that towards the operation of the senior center. And my second point is, with regards to the gentleman, Dr. Jones, if that information can be shared to council, various council members who are interested, that we could write letters to lobby and send off to Budish as a way to
Well, right now I have the state senator and I have the congresswoman's office calling him this week as well to reinforce. They know what the issues are. I met with the folks in the Community Advisory Division at Marymount who had given us the $10,000 and do not want to, I'm telling you, they don't want to see us closed because of, we're a safety net for the families as well, you know, in the community. So they are lobbying also with Mr. Budish as well.
Tony?
based on what Linda just said, and based on the email that I sent out, I mean, I didn't get any feedback off of it. And I'm not looking to introduce something that's competing with a specific only senior levy. I'm trying to see if we can have some type of discussion on broadening that levy to make this more of a multi-purpose center so that more people buy into voting and not to see it as only directly going to the seniors, but the seniors are a subset of what you do. I mean, it's a huge subset of what you do. But when you also got the recreation department in your lap a couple of years ago, you know, and some of the other services that you do, when the word is, and not just from council meetings and maybe just some of the stuff that I hear off the street, and there's never going to be a time that we're ever going to keep every child in the city busy doing something, but I do believe that we do need to offer, you know, our soccer and our whatever we did before and bring some of those programs back. And I'm wondering how much it would cost in millage to increase that, to make it more of a multi-service center type of levy that's all-inclusive, if people would buy into that a little bit more than just say it's for the seniors. And I know we lost by a very minimal amount, but I do think that the need is a little bit greater than that, because we have to take care of our seniors, but we also have to make the community a little bit more attractive to people that are moving in or the people that are here, and to provide services that they need aside from just rec. But I mean, you help people with utilities and you help people with getting food. Unless there's a direct link with, you know, families that come from the schools, I don't think everybody knows that. And I don't know if changing it, I'm not trying to change our lives, but making this more of a multi-purpose center so that people know that this is a place to come for a lot of different assistance, when people buy into that. And it's just an idea to see and for feedback, to see if that's something we might want to put on this ballot, because I'm not sure if in November the schools are going to put one on, or if it's going to be next year, and then we're competing. So, I mean, I'd like to just go for the whole ball. Keep the levy that we have. They may vote for either one. Hopefully they don't vote for none. I mean, that's the crapshoot that we have. What's your feeling on that? Because I didn't advertise this. It was only sent to councils that perhaps we might be able to just talk about it and get some feedback. I haven't written anything out. I'm just throwing out an idea.
My feeling is that the reason that we lost 55 votes had to do with the fact there was another levy on the ballot and the big push not to pass the cameras. We took it on the chin because of that. I was at the polls, I watched people that were working against the cameras and against the other levy. I watched them tell people, you don't want any new taxes, and when they went in, they just voted, you know, down the list. So I personally, if you intend to pass, if you're lucky to pass anything, you're going to be lucky to pass one. And if you're going to do that, then you better make it, and you want to include other things. Irene and I have to talk about that because we have no staff. I mean, there's no staff left. So we have to, that would be a big number to figure out how much it would be to bring back at least one more person here and probably at least 2 full-time people in recreation to bring back those the pumpkin hunt, the Easter fest, the Santa delivery, and then the soccer program, and anything else that you would want, and put it under the umbrella of human services.
Yes, your excuse.
Sorry.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Allison.
Somebody else wants that, and I'm just gonna drop it.
No, I mean, I think you have a very valid point. And my opinion, in terms of the levies, would be the piece of legislation we just passed for the senior levy was to get rid of that and then have a new proposed ordinance with a levy that would cover human services. So towards the senior center, parks and recreations and so forth. But we need to come up with numbers from Irene and from Linda.
Is it too late to change what we voted on now as an amendment? I'm just asking. I mean, I don't know. I'm not looking to actually do something or chop something. It's just discussion right now.
Yes.
I'm thinking it would be an ideal way to do that. But again, I think Tony has a point. It would have to be phrased, and so does Linda. It would have to be phrased so that people know that it's the senior center and all of it. You don't realize how many people have no clue what goes on in the city itself. They really don't. They don't avail themselves of some of the services until they're very needy. And then, oh, I didn't know that. I think it's really hard to push more than what we have on. I really do. Because we had also talked about a charter amendment, putting that on. I did hear rumors, I don't know if you heard it or not, that the school was thinking of it. So, with the negativity
I've heard it as well. I just don't know when.
yeah, but all the negativity that we've seen from a lot of the folks that want the taxes. I think we have to get the actual amounts out there. It'll cost you $5 more. That's not a big deal. And kind of sell that.
Well, 1.3 right now, if we go based on the same numbers that we advertised the very first time we put it in the ballot, if you were on Homestead and your house was worth around $50,000, then it was $5. So obviously we need more millage than 1.3, and I don't know how much that would cost. And are people willing to pay for services? That's the other thing. I don't know.
I think regarding something like that, if we were to do a totally new levy that's focused on human services, we need to get input from residents. We need to educate residents on what these services are, what these services mean to them, what benefits they offer, and then the costs associated, and what type of quality of life do they want in the community.
Well, yeah, and there has to be support for it, but I mean, the question now is just, is that something we might want to pursue in open meetings, or is this something that, let's just go with what we have? The other end of the table is pretty quiet.
I'm just waiting for y'all to get finished. I can answer questions.
Okay, well, and I'd be interested, just for the heck of it, and I'm not picking on you, Bill, but you were door knocking a lot, and there was a lot of negativity that you heard from the senior levy. And the people, well, I'm just saying, the people that worked against, would they work for something that would encompass more broad services?
It's a question you'd have to ask them, but the questions that haven't been answered yet is how much money does the senior center need to operate to the end of the year? Will it get that amount of money? And these are questions that are not being answered. Why are there discrepancies in the financial documents? These are questions that are going to come up if you try to pass anything, and these questions are not being answered. So, I mean, it's not just a matter of finding how much money it takes to operate the recreation. People want to know what's going on, and they're going to want answers to these questions too. Where's the city going long term? They're going to want that answered, I think, as well. We already have one of the highest tax rates, property tax rates in the entire county. And we are dealing with one of the poorest neighborhoods in the entire county. So, I mean, you're going to have difficulty no matter what you do, how you approach it.
Chair.
Mr. Jackson?
A whole lot of things balled up in this last couple of minutes. But that type of information that we're talking about into the communities, to me, sound like a great community forum, educational type thing to give people before they go to the polls and vote on anything, number one. Number two, Tony, if you remember when the 1.3 was first mentioned about that, I raised a question about recreation and was that the amount that we needed, and Irene and Linda was going to get together to see what those numbers were, to see if 1.3 should be 1.4 or 5, to see, looking at it as, would that make a big determination on people if it was 1.3 or 1.4 on what they would vote, how they would vote. But actually also what's the difference in money that would be generated from 1.3 to 4 or to 5. To me, if you're going to ask for it, you need to ask for enough to do what you want to do. There's no sense in getting a bare minimum, because if you just want to keep the limited amount of services we got, then yeah, you ask for only you need to cover that. But I don't think you can think about getting the bare minimum this year and then come back within a year or two and ask for some more. Just like I say with the people, the way they look at police and fire levies, when you mention that, they say, hey, we passed a levy for that, thinking that the levy that they passed for that would cover that total line item. We know it don't, but they're going to say the same thing, and they're going to think the same thing with the senior service or human service levy. They're going to expect that to cover everything that you need to have done in that area. So yes, if you're going to think that way, then we need to know what that would cost, what we need to ask for, and the majority of the people would have to be for that type of thing, and then educate the public and what this actually is, what it means, and what it's going to do. Now, going back, I thought we wasn't going to talk about 15, but seeing that we are, that rainy day $21,000, I think that transferred to the general fund, did it not?
Yes, it did.
Okay, so that's already gone somewhere, even if it's in the general fund. Can it go back to the human services? If we say so, I would think. But there's a couple other things too, questions I had about 15. One of the line items, can we talk about 15, or is this just on the 16 budget?
The meeting is for the 2016 budget.
Okay. Well,
What was presented.
Does the body have any other additional questions regarding the 2016 tax budget?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, Mr. Rowley.
Same question as before. Why, even in these documents that we were given tonight, Ms. Kroll, you have the ending balances listed on one and the beginning balances on the other. If you look at the ending balance 2015, and then on the second document you compare it to the beginning balance of 2016, which is only 24 or a fraction of a second apart, right? Why is there a difference?
I've already explained that.
Would you please explain why there is a difference between the ending balance of 2015, as you just gave it to us tonight, same as previously, and the beginning balance of 2016.
This is not the first time you've seen these numbers. You received a certificate of estimated resources probably at least a month ago. When it was sent to me, I sent it immediately to this body. On that document, it contained for 2015, the beginning and ending numbers. You have those. This is not the first time you've seen them. This is not the first time you've seen the ending, and for the tax budget, that budget
No, we're
was
talking about the
submitted.
beginning.
I'm just saying,
of
but
2016.
the beginning and end of the tax budget numbers are on the tax budget that was submitted.
I'm not asking you to
just a
tell me what
month
they are, I'm asking you to explain the difference between
I've
them.
already explained them. I said to you that there were entries and projections and audit adjustments right along. They're memo entries. They're not affecting the cash. And as they audit, and I pointed out the large numbers, which you have right before you, to see how you can add up to the difference that you're talking about.
What we're talking about, if you would please pull out this document, it says ending balances 2015 and 16. If you'd please look at the column, it says ending balance for 2015. At the bottom there, it says $1.4 million. If you pull up the second document has the beginning balances of 15 and 16. I would expect that the ending balance of 2015 would correspond to the beginning balance of 2016.
One of my first statements was that that is a false assumption and a false notion. The 16 is prepared based on what we think 16 will be. The 15 was prepared at the time that it was submitted on what we thought the 15. Those two numbers do not have to equal.
They're only one day apart, why wouldn't they equal?
Sir, I'm through with that.
So are we planning to spend more than we actually appropriated?
I never said that.
Then why are we not ending the year with a $1.4 million ending balance?
We have the documents, analyzing it, and you'll find out.
Okay, you're
We have
refusing to
it
answer the
by-
question.
we have it by
This is the problem that you guys will have when it comes to passing a levy. You want to play these little shell games, and then you want people to give you money. It's not going to happen. You want to say, oh, I don't know why it's like that, or oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Yet, when it comes down to brass tacks, this city has been going down for years because of these same games. It's a shell game all the time. There's going to be money here, there's going to be money there. The money doesn't come. Oh, well, we just changed the budget. We simply changed it. There was going to be, the expenditure was going to be this amount. Well, they're more than that amount. Oh, well, let's just change the appropriations. That's what's been done for the past at least 3 years. That's a large reason why the city's in the position that it's in. And if we keep playing that game, I don't think people are going to have enough trust in you, especially now with fiscal emergency, to say, oh, sure, we'll just give you more money. You guys, you're fighting an uphill battle, and I don't think you're going to win. Until these questions are answered, I think you all should be a little bit more concerned about this than you are. You're not going to probably pass any more taxes in this city. And you should really think really hard about whether we should get answers to these questions or not.
Thank you. Does the body have any other additional questions? Seeing no questions, this meeting is adjourned at 7:30. Thank you.